Eliza walked cautiously along the worn dirt path, her lantern casting an amber glow that barely pierced the mist. She had heard the stories, whispers of the long-lost fen watchers, villagers who had disappeared centuries ago during the English enclosure acts, their land stolen, their bodies swallowed by the marsh, never to be seen again. Some said their spirits lingered, bound to the waterlogged soil, their voices woven into the cries of the curlew. Eliza didn't believe in ghost stories, not really, yet something about the oppressive silence unsettled her. It wasn't just the quiet. It was the feeling that the mist was alive, curling inward like a hand reaching for her. Her resolve faltered when she noticed footsteps in the mud that weren't her own, leading deeper into the marsh. They were fresh, too large to belong to any animal, and they stopped abruptly at the edge of the pathway where the ground turned to black water. She hesitated, the air around her thickening. It was then she heard it. A low, mournful humming, faint but growing louder. It was not a tune she recognized, yet it had an ancient familiarity, as if it were etched into the bones of the land itself. Compelled by a force she didn't understand, she followed the sound, each step feeling heavier than the last. The mist thickened, and shapes began to materialize within it, tall, gaunt figures standing motionless in the distance, their faces obscured, their heads slightly tilted as if listening. The lantern's flame sputtered, and Eliza's breath grew shallow. The figures started to move, the humming swelling into a chorus that thrummed in her chest, pulling her closer to the dark water. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her feet wouldn't obey. Their movements were disjointed, as though they were caught between this world and another, their limbs elongated and twisting unnaturally. One step forward, and though its face remained shrouded in shadow, she could feel its eyes on her, heavy and unrelenting. A voice, separate from the chorus, spoke inside her head, neither male nor female, but vast and ancient. "You walk upon stolen ground." She fell to her knees, her body trembling with a terror she couldn't comprehend, her hands sinking into the wet, cold earth that seemed to clutch at her fingers. The lantern fell from her grasp, extinguished as it hit the mud. In the darkness, the figures encircled her, their forms dissolving into the mist, merging with it until the entire marsh seemed to breathe around her. The voice spoke again, this time softer, almost gentle. "We have waited long." With those words, the ground beneath her gave way, and she plunged into icy water thick with reeds that wrapped around her limbs like chains. She fought, gasping for air, but the more she struggled, the tighter they became. As her vision blurred, she saw the faces in the mist, hollow-eyed and endless, their mouths open in silent song. The marsh had claimed her, just as it had claimed them, another soul tethered to the land. Another voice added to the chorus. When the sun rose the next morning, the path was empty, the fog untouched, and the marsh, as always, was silent.